Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the GallowgateShots YouTube and podcast channel. We are back with another match preview, this time for Premier League football. It's the match preview for the Arsenal game. I'm Scott. I'm your host for this one. And this week I'm joined by Daryl and Matty. Matty, mate, how are things in the Shuttleworth household?
This Shuttleworth household, yeah, that sounds weird. For those who don't know, and you won't care, I got married a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, it's all systems go. It's all happy families over here, but no more happier after last night's fixture. I didn't expect that at all. Not to go into it. I know we've had reactions and everything, but bloody hell, Scott. There's two words for you.
Bloody hell, indeed. Daryl, mate, how are you?
I'm great, mate. Yeah, I mean, like Matty said, bloody hell. After last night, I wasn't expecting that either. I think we all know that my prediction was for it to go all the distance to a penalty shootout. So, by all means, for them to finish the job inside 90 minutes was a huge bonus, especially in such an emphatic manner. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to some more Premier League football.
I think the job was done within about 35 minutes. Really.
Well,
anyway,
yeah,
we'll save that for the match reaction, which I'm sure is coming along soon. Yeah, what we'll do then, we'll jump straight in to this preview. Well, actually, we won't. Does anybody know why?
Because we've got some sponsors, baby.
The GallowgateShots match preview is brought to you by Magpin. Magpin are the go-to site for high-quality, unofficial enamel pin badges of Newcastle United players, legends and retro kits. For more information, visit their website at magpinbadges.bigcartel.com. Absolutely, we do have a sponsor, and that was it. But we'll jump straight into it. So, Arsenal home, Saturday, November 4th, 5:30 p.m. kickoff under the lights at St James's Park. It's on Sky, BT, one of the two.
Sky.
It's on Sky.
Yeah.
Yep. This could be a tricky one, Matty. I mean, Arsenal currently second in the league, 7 wins, 3 draws, and 0 defeats.
Yeah.
They're sitting on 24 points with a plus 15 goal difference. And I think they've only had like 9 goals scored against them all season.
Yeah.
How are you feeling going into this one? Are you confident? Is last night something you can really count towards performance, considering how many changes we made yesterday?
I think it creates a sort of little bit of a security blanket on. I know I'm not really. No offense to Paul Dummett and Matt Ritchie, but them aside, that as much as our squad is now very thin because of the injuries we've got, that the ones that still aren't playing can very much do a job.
Yeah.
Joe Willock being back on the side and looking back to what we know he can do. It was good to see him actually turn the afterburners on a couple of times, because I think he's probably been a bit worried about doing that with his hamstring and his ankle. But I think it should, like I say, create a little bit of security in terms of the squad depth a little bit. There's still massive issues there. But, I mean, I was saying the other day that given the injuries we've got and what's going on, Man United away in the Cup, Arsenal at home and Dortmund away, as a fan base, we need to sort of realise that there's a very real possibility that we lose those 3 games. And I'm not trying to be negative or anything like that. It's just a real possibility given how stretched the squad is. So to do what we did last night without playing for the majority, many of our, starting 11, that is going to be heartening. And they'll go into this game full of confidence, I think. But Arsenal are just a really good team now. Arsenal, when we used to play the so-called top 6 or top 4, Arsenal was always the one where you went into and thought, we could probably get something today. But given the job Arteta did last season and what he's doing this season as well, I know he just said 7 wins, 3 draws, no losses. They're still a little bit off the pace of Man City, but who isn't? It's just, I see it as just we're playing one of the big boys, and if we can get anything, I'll very much take it. And we've got the players still to hurt them as well. Don't get me wrong. But I think I referenced the game last season. We were still flying then. We were still doing really well, but they just looked a little bit shift up a gear and they decided to just go through the gears and end up scoring 2 goals. And although we hit the post and stuff, but yeah, it's a big task. But I think one that we could be up to, depending on all the variables that come with Premier League football.
Yeah, and there will be a lot of variables, Daryl. Obviously, last night, Arsenal lost. Was it 3-1 or 3-0 to West Ham?
3-0.
I think it was 3-1, wasn't it? 3-0.
3-0.
Obviously, it's in the Cup, and Cup form and League form are 2 totally different things. They don't particularly like a trip to St James's Park. of recent years, but obviously, last season they kind of made amends for that. Their last 3 wins, that was against Sheffield United, Man City and Everton, and then 2 draws were against Chelsea and Spurs. Incidentally, the 2 draws were 2-2 draws both. It's an interesting one because I think a lot of this depends on what Arsenal turn up in terms of how if they feel up for it or not, Daryl. What are your thoughts for this one?
So like you say, the last time we met, it was a 2-0 Arsenal win. And what you've mentioned there about those 2-2 draws as well, is particularly the one against Chelsea, was that they came from 2 goals down in that game. So it's quite clear that this season Arteta has probably instilled a bit of character into them to be able to come back from the deficit in a game, which means that even if we were to get ourselves into a good position on Saturday, then the game isn't going to be said and done until actually the referee blows for full time at 90 minutes or however many added minutes he adds on. But so it's going to be a case of we're going to have to be on the ball and alert for the entire game on Saturday. And, as Matty said, and as you said, the players have been rested midweek who can come back into the squad on Saturday. And even though Callum Wilson and Kieran Trippier came on for a little bit of a cameo at the end against Man United in the Cup, they're going to be the ones that come straight in. Lascelles will come back in. Fabian Schär will come back in. Dan Burn, who also made a cameo last night, he'll also come straight back in as well. So there's a lot of players to come back into that team. Bruno will come back in to start, you would imagine, all being well. And, I think it's going to be a case of getting under that skin early, maybe even getting a goal or 2 relatively early on. We can't be leaving it too late without scoring because Arsenal will hurt us on attacks. They have the quality up front to do that. And Nketiah has, in the form of his life at the minute, having just scored a hat-trick last weekend. And, Declan Rice, another player who's, I think in like last season when we went to West Ham, if I recall rightly, I think one of the things that was said was that we had to control the midfield. We had to make sure that Declan Rice didn't run the game. And fortunately, at that point, we did because we beat them 5-1 at West Ham. And again, it's going to come into the same thing on Saturday. We're going to have to make sure that the boys in midfield are able to control the game and keep Declan Rice quiet. He's going to be a threat. And if Ødegaard is playing, I don't know if he's injured or not in a minute. I'm sure we'll get onto that. He is also that danger man in midfield as well as Rice, who's going to be driving the team forward and whatnot. So there's a lot of problems in the Arsenal team that we're going to have to be on the ball to deal with. But again, that's not to say that we can't create problems of our own. Anthony Gordon's in decent form. Almiron scored against Man United. You expect he'll start because of the lack of depth in certain parts of the squad. And our defence, our back 5 are relatively solid. We can rely on them to put in a good show and keep teams out. Not necessarily might not keep Arsenal out, but for a fact there's a chance that we'll be able to keep teams out.
Yeah, and it's quite telling the way that Arsenal play, isn't it? I mean, they're quite dominant in possession. They like to play high press, and they do concede few chances. And Matty, you could argue that's been one of our downfalls this season, is that when we've had our chances, we haven't taken them. Is it going to be a case of, Arsenal play the game that we kind of like, where we can kind of catch them on the break, but if we don't take our chances, that could be what dictates what happens in this game.
Well, at the risk of, starting an argument, I'm sure we're the most clinical side in the Premier League, Scott. I think
that is true.
Yeah, I think it got said that we create a lot of chances and we've actually taken the most percentage of them. So not to put you in your place there, Scott, but but again, it's about against who knows how inflated those numbers are from a certain game at Bramall Lane. I'm not too sure, but either way, I mean, we had or do have the players to take those chances, but I think. No Isak. He's normally your clinical finisher. I know Wilson's obviously got a great record as well, but yeah, I think it's making those chances is what's going to be tough. I think the weekend rather than taking them. Hopefully, when they come, we do take them. I mean, we're not going to get in predictions just yet, but I think we will be on the back foot and we'll try and trust in those wide areas to try and break on Arsenal. And to Daryl's point, the midfield's going to be huge because whether Ødegaard plays or not, that Declan Rice, like he's an up and coming footballer no one's heard of, but Declan Rice, like when we played West Ham last season, we were 1-0 up within 3 minutes. Wilson scores at St James's Park. Paqueta equalises, and he ran the show for me. I think he was the best player on the pitch, and we know his quality. It's no secret. So trying to deal with that is huge. But again, like I said, just creating chances. What's lush about this team now is I have no doubt in my mind that we will create at least 2 chances this game. Even if we are subpar, we will create 2 shooting opportunities, and whether we take one of them or not, it's up to the lads. Really, it's out of our hands. But again, it's just I feel like these are the games. Arsenal, just to sort of circle back and talk about their quality, they're up there again, and it's not. People who might be going to this game think, oh, it's Arsenal. We sometimes do all right against Arsenal. It's a different Arsenal now, and if you just a percentage off your game that could do you all over, man. So yeah, I'm worried, but at the same time, I have faith that there will be chances. Just like you said, taking them.
Yeah, Daryl, you mentioned about Odegaard. I don't think he's injured. Looking at the list that I got today, and again, this is off, before the press conferences and after the game last night. And from what we've got, I think it's just Gabriel Jesus and Emile Smith-Rowe who are still doubts. And they do have a long-term injury, but obviously in terms of players who've been playing this season.
Sorry, it were up there, by the way. I was kicking off at you saying it was 3-0. It was 3-1. You were right, Scott. And guess who scored for Arsenal? It was Martin Odegaard. So there's us doing our bloody research. I turned it off too early. Sorry.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Probably going for a walk.
Yeah. he had another game to watch. That's what it was.
Yeah, it was. True. Yeah. But Daryl,
we apologise. Any Arsenal fans listening? Any
Arsenal fans. But to get to what I was saying there, Daryl, obviously they've got a couple of players out, but they've still got a lot of players who can hurt you. When we talk about our squad depth, and people maybe say how thin it is, and you look at the quality of our depth, and it maybe isn't up there as your Arsenals and the other sides. When one player goes out, it's almost like you can just replace it like for like. Where I'm not disrespecting our lads, because we saw last night just how good that they can be, but if you're replacing Emile Smith-Rowe with Odegaard or Martinelli or Saka or whoever it is, like, that's a big jump in replacing Jacob Murphy with Matt Ritchie. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a bit of a different aspect of a game. But they've got a lot of players that can hurt with.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just mentioned half of them there. I mean, you've also got to look at Saka on the right wing. You've mentioned Martinelli, Eddie Nketiah coming in to replace Gabriel Jesus. There is quality throughout that team, and I think it's sort of, if anything, it puts a marker down as to something that we can look to become, and eventually we will have that sort of strength and depth in our squad. And even at the back, I mean, yes, you might have conceded 3 against West Ham, but Aaron Ramsdale's the top keeper. He's in the England squad, and you've got David Raya, who's pushing him all the way, and seems to be Arteta's first choice for nearly all the games coming at the minute. So yeah, I mean, eventually we will be able to match Arsenal with that. But again, that's no disrespect to the lads who are here at the minute, because by God, they're doing a hell of a job when they're being asked of to come into the team. I mean, you look at Emil Kraft, for example. We'll single him out, coming in from the cold, having been out for a year with injury, and you're coming in and absolutely playing a blinder against Man United in the cup. And I just saw some highlights this afternoon from that game, and he even had a chance at the very end to get a 4th goal, but I think he headed it straight at Onana.
Tried the loop and headed, didn't he?
He did. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, again, their strength and depth is something we can aspire to, but can't fault the lads that we've got at the moment, and they really are doing a job. And I think good on them. They've really taken an opportunity that they've got, and if any of them get a chance on Saturday, then I think we can not be too worried about it. Back in the day, you would have thought, oh God, he's bringing the kid on, and the kid's like a lamb in the slaughter. But now you're thinking, the lads know how we play. It's not a clash of styles, right? They all know, you can all sing to the same hymn sheet even. So there's nothing too much to worry about with our depth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose, if we touch a little bit on our injuries, I don't think there was any added, although there was a couple of players hobbling off yesterday, but I think it was just more the nature of the battle. Because I think by the end of it, man, you were getting a little bit annoyed, and there was a few tackles going. Well, I say that it was happening from the start of the game, really, with Hannibal, who should have been off.
Yeah.
But again, we'll save that for the reaction.
Sorry, Scott, just Matt Target, who was a casualty from last night.
Yeah. Obviously, Matt Target, which you probably wouldn't expect Target to start this game because he was playing on there. But you've got Dan Burn, who can obviously fill in there, and obviously Lewis Hall as well, who could also play on that side. So, we've got a couple of players, and I think last night Lewis Hall kind of proved a few of the doubters wrong, because I think there's one of you maybe saw his performance against Man City and thought he might not be up for it. Yeah, but I think what he did yesterday, and it's looking good. I don't think there was any additions to that injury list. Be interesting to see what's said about Bruno, because I think he had a hole in his boot and a bit of blood coming out of that. So maybe that's why he was hobbling.
He was limping a little bit at the end, but hopefully that's just more of a superficial injury rather than that glass ankle we know he has.
Yeah, and obviously, you've mentioned the middle there, Daryl, but it looks like from a lineup point of view, that middle's going to have to be Sean Longstaff, Joe Linton, and Bruno, really, as kind of a cemented force. Maybe Willett comes in and you move Joe Linton out on the left. That's kind of your only real kind of switch you can make in the league. And that's no disrespect, like I said, to any other player, but you wouldn't expect the likes of Paul Dummett and Matt Ritchie to be starting in the Premier League game, and probably not against Arsenal. I do want to touch on, Matty, on the goalkeeper situation, because Nick Pope's come up with a little bit of criticism recently. Obviously, he made a couple of mistakes last week in his distribution, shall we say, hasn't been the best. Dubravka, who seems to be a little bit better in the distribution standpoint, and I think we've all known that, really, came in last night and did no harm, for his value in the squad. Has this give Eddie Howe a headache in selection of a goalkeeper, or do you think it's just Nick Pope is your number one, you know who your number one is, and he comes straight back in?
Exactly that. There is no.
And I'm using number one as hypothetical because obviously Dubravka is number one.
Yeah.
Nick Pope is 22.
There's no selection headache there for me. I don't think. I mean, don't get me wrong. Eddie Howe will have seen Dubravka's performance. I know it wasn't exactly the biggest, going back to where he used to play, but he was there on loan last season, so it might have felt a bit weird for him to go there, keep a clean sheet. Made one decent save from distance off Mason Mount. Always rated Dubravka. Came to us pretty much unknown to English football, and had two very, very good seasons, and proceeded to still be a decent keeper for us. But Nick Pope, for me, I've nailed my colours to the mast. I am Nick Pope through and through. I feel that always you're allowed to criticise as a football fan, well within your rights to criticise someone's performance. That's what we do as football fans. We discuss, and then obviously on this podcast we do it. But I do feel like it's went a little bit over the top with Nick Pope. Yeah, I know he's not silky with his feet, and I know that he is prone to just making the wrong decision every now and then. But I think he's got so much credit in the bank, bank, that I just don't see why you need to be calling for him to. And I'm not saying you are, Scott, but I know certain people on that silly little app we go on are. I've seen the tweets or the X's or whatever. What are they called now? Posts.
Yeah.
Posts. You tweet on Twitter and you post on X. But yeah, it just it does annoy me a little bit. That people think he needs to be one of the first ones out the door. I think you think about goalkeeping in a modern sense, and it's an absolute basket case of a job. People want you to be as good as a midfielder, but also be fantastic at saving shots. I think the latter is still a really fine art, and the main thing that you bring a goalkeeper in to do. Pope still isn't, I don't think, that bad with the ball at his feet. It's just the decision. It's when it's his thinking quickly. That's where I think he struggles a little bit, because he just might keep the ball too long or not release it too quickly. We've seen he can throw really well, and for the height of him, he can claim a cross fine. It's just when he decides to claim it. We've seen him, that cost us that second goal at Wolves. It was still bad defending, but he kept the phase of play going by not catching the ball, simple as, under pressure. And I'll take that. We take that on the chin, but I just think, like I said, just to circle back, he's got so much credit in the bank. I think he's a top quality goalkeeper, and I mean, I would put it to people in the comments, like, who do you go and get? Like, tell me you go and get. Like, who's this keeper who's going to instantly supersede Nick Pope? I'm not saying Nick Pope's one of the best in the world, but I'm saying you're not going to buy one of the best in the world with the money that we have available. We've seen that the best option available to Man United, and how much money they spent on him. I'm not saying he's absolutely terrible, but he certainly hasn't started great. We've seen him spray the ball about with his feet and all that, but we've seen him not do the latter of what I'm talking about, and that's keep the ball out the back of the net when you should be.
Yeah.
So for me, like, Nick Pope's still one of the best at doing that. Fingers crossed, Nick, please don't let me down at the weekend and throw one into your own net, because I'm going to look very, very silly. But I absolutely love him. I think he's top quality. And yes, no selection headache for Eddie Howe. As much as I love you, Mr. Dubravka, as well, you've done a lot for us. So yeah, it's Nick Pope all the way for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. Obviously, just have to bring up talking points. I'm not calling for Nick Pope's head.
Just doing your job. Stop doing your job, Scott.
Just do your job and leave us alone.
Yeah, giving us conversation.
I suppose, if we are talking about selection headaches, last night's give Eddie Howe another selection headache, Daryl, when it comes to your left and right backs, because both those, I'll call them boys because they're only youngins. Put the cat among the pigeons when it comes to who do you pick, Burn or Hall, Trippier or Livramento. I think we know the answer, but it's nice to know we've got a bit of backup in those spaces. And Emil Kraft even playing at centre back, you're thinking, oh, hang on, it isn't just Botman, Cher, and Lascelles. We do actually have some players who can play in those positions. And Dummett. I'm not going to rule out Paul Dummett either, because it's all love here.
Yeah, absolutely. And as mentioned before, we're not worried about the depth in the squad anymore. Lewis Hall had a fantastic game last night, and Tino Livramento was on another level completely. He had such a great game, and he provided the assist for the first goal, and he just I mean, it does give Eddie Howe a selection headache, but not necessarily in the way that we think, because, where do you find a place for Tino in that side? Do you consider him as a right winger? Because we know he can play there. He's done it before. So does he come in as an option to come in for Almiron when Almiron needs to have a rest after an hour on Saturday to keep him fresh for Tuesday against Dortmund? And in terms of the left back situation, as great as a game Lewis Hall had, I think we know it's going to be Dan Burn. It's just the senior man, and Eddie Howe doesn't like to break up that back four if he can help it. And he's only done it because Botman's out with his knee injury for another 4 weeks or however long he's going to be out for. Hopefully it's not too long, Sven. But
hope it's not 4 weeks.
Yeah, that well,
could be.
It could be longer. It could be longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many options there, and like you say, Emil Kraft coming in and doing a job at right centre back, that's just music to everybody's ears. And ever reliable, I suppose I should say. Sorry, Chris, but Paul Dummett, ever reliable Paul Dummett coming in and doing the job on the left-hand side of that defence.
Sorry, Chris.
But no, I mean, that back four is solid, but we definitely have options now, and I'm definitely very pleased that that's a thing, because we know that any amount of injuries just decimates us completely. So it's good to have that backup.
Absolutely. And I suppose I was going to say it's not with talking about the strikers, because we've only got one, but last night Anthony Gordon did a fairly decent job up there on his own. Obviously, didn't get a goal or anything, but he was doing enough, and he was making good runs, dummy runs, if anything, to get other players into the pitch. I mean, Miggy's goal, if Gordon doesn't make that run cross field, there's no ball to Miggy because the defenders are not tracking Gordon. And I think for Willock's goal, he pretty much runs into Harry Maguire and blocks. And I think that stops, I can't remember the name of the defender that Man U had, but it stops him from being able to make a decision of where he's going, because he's expecting Maguire to cut across him and, close that channel, and it doesn't happen. So, obviously, I'm not saying that Gordon's going to start up front every week for, and I don't think that'll ever happen. But again, like we've said with Kraft, like we've said with the other two, it's just nice to have players that are, square pegs in round holes, but they're actually fitting not too badly. It's a snug fit, but they're fitting. Let's move on to our predictions. I've been thinking long and hard about mine, and I'll start for a change because I'm sick of having a prediction and then both, whoever else is on here saying the one I want. So let me go first. I think, and I don't want to be negative, but I think this will be a defeat. I think it'll be very tight, but I'm going to go for a 1-0 Arsenal win. I just think they're going to have that little bit extra on us, and it'll be a late goal. It's going to be 60, 75 minutes, and I just think they're just going to, like you said, Matty, like last season, they're just going to crank it up a gear, which we won't have, and they'll get their goal. The other reason I didn't want to end on me, because I didn't want to end on a negative, so hopefully someone's not going for a defeat. So we'll come to you, Daryl, next.
Yeah.
What's your prediction?
Well, I've been thinking long and hard about mine as well, and I don't think it'll be a victory for a start, but I do think it'll be a score draw. And I've just had it in my head today. I don't think it'll be a lot of goals. I think it'll be a 1-1 draw. I think we'll probably take the lead. We'll get that early goal, but then as time goes on during the game, I just think Arteta's got that depth in his squad, and they're on such a level that they'll probably come back like they have done in previous games this season and scramble themselves an equaliser, and it'll end 1-1.
There you go. Matty, you're going to be our shining light in this.
You've both been thinking long and hard. I'm going short and soft, baby. So sorry, I hope that doesn't stop the monetization of this video. But but I don't know. I was gonna say like similar to last season, but we score, so maybe like 2-1 to Arsenal. But I don't know. I was feeling this result. So it's still not very optimistic, but it's a draw. And I'm just thinking about the Wolves game and the West Ham game, about how they were the Wolves game very much was a hard-fought game. West Ham, Taylor two halves. We sort of not threw it away, but it was a bit gutting. However, given how West Ham were doing and we were away from home, everyone sort of took the point. And because the fact that then he scored at the end, you got away with it, you got a point. But Wolves, once they equalised, I thought, well, they're definitely going to win now. And they didn't. But you were still gutted that you threw away 2-1 win. So you just sort of reflect on these points and think, what could have been? Yeah. So I'm thinking it's going to be a point on a different axis, on a different side of the coin. And I think that maybe they'll play really well, Arsenal, and it'll be like a tough watch. But maybe they go 1-0 up or whatever. And then we the ones who pegged them back. And you walk away going, that was a mint point that we dug in there and we did an half cup. So I'm looking for a resilient draw. But last time sometimes when we're very realistic on this podcast, you have a lot of people who don't like that, right? So I'm going to go, because it's not the Ashley era anymore, I'm going to go 3-1 Newcastle.
Wow. Married life has changed you, Matty. Married life has changed you. But I like it.
Yeah.
So I was about to say get married again, but don't do that. Keep the one you've got. Keep the current wife.
Yeah. I'll try my best.
Let us know in the comments below what you think the score is going to be. Let us know if there's anything we've missed out on this one. Boys, do you want to add anything before we wrap this one up?
Usually I have something here, but I don't have anything. I don't have anything.
Use it all in his prediction.
Yeah, just my prediction.
Yeah, that prediction's
just optimistic prediction.
Yeah.
Get there early, guys. Digital ticketing.
Yeah. Don't be like the Everton fans getting locked out or whatever happened last night. But thanks everyone for watching. If you like this sort of stuff, please scroll down from this video, hit the little thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and when you do that, a little bell will appear, and if you hit that, you'll be notified when we post new videos on this channel. If you want to go one step further, we do have a membership program. It's $2.99 or $4.99 a month. That gets you early access to videos like this, as well as access to the Telegram and the Discord server. Boys, the reason I said it would be a 1-0 defeat is because I haven't gotten a single prediction right this season, and I'm hoping I'm going to be wrong. So we are going to win this. Matty, you've filled me with confidence, but I'm keeping my predictions because it's always going to be wrong. Thanks, lads. It's been a good one. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.